Hey. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. Folks snuck in there on me in the little last second. Had a couple submissions jump in. I won't call it last minute, but, you know, later than usual, later than what we typically see. So, doing the stand up thing today. Why not? Um, Hope you're doing well where you are. I am just waiting for Couchbot to fire, and because I am so discombobulated, I didn't have Discord open, which is a problem. So I'm basically flying blind if I don't have Discord open. Got a few things going on. Hey, did anybody watch that 24 hours of UX? I caught a little bit of it, but I was in the middle of a meeting, so I didn't catch what I would consider to be a ton of it. It looked pretty good what I saw, though. I think there was a team from, I think it was New York Design System group was speaking when I was checking in on it. Might have been around like 4 o'clock yesterday. Um, yeah, but looked good. Looked like a great lineup, frankly. And I think um, you're going to find more of these global online conferences. There's one coming up this weekend here, and it's normally in person here in Chicago. It's UX Camp. It's like $10. I think you should probably check that one out. Um, then there's I'm part of a conference for Society for News Design. It's now going to be a remote event. I just got confirmation of that the other day. So there's a lot of traction behind remote, and it extends to conferences. I think this is a opportunity. Basically, anybody on this call, anybody watching this, you can participate in these conferences now. Where previously you had to get approval from a boss, or if you don't have a boss, you'd have to come up with the money on your own to pay for a really expensive ticket, pay for airfare, pay for a hotel. Now you don't have to do that. And while I realize there's a hit on networking, I don't think it's as bad. I don't. I think the upside of being able to go to more things and hear from more really smart people is even better. Gonna take a second because Couchbot fired. Greetings, greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It is time for the feedback loop, where I take your limited questions this morning. The last couple of days we've been packed in here. Today we got one. We got little Melanie. Although Rebecca, I see you. But I'm gonna respond to yours offline, just because it's more text based. Melanie, you've got some visual stuff here this morning, so we're gonna jump into that. I was just taking a second in the pre-show to talk about these online conferences that are going on. Yesterday was 24 hours of UX. It's really great lineup. More if you missed it, oh man, you missed a great lineup. But there's more great stuff coming up. UX Camp is coming up this weekend. Hop online. Chicago Camps is throwing that, so you can Google Chicago Camps and you'll get right to it. It's like a $10 UX conference. Remote, all online. And the upside to this, again, is the fact that you don't have to buy a plane ticket or buy a hotel room to get to the thing. You can just watch it online. Yeah, so that's a huge upside for people that, well, frankly, if you don't live in the town where the conference is being held, I don't see how you could go during this age of COVID anyway. So it's a great opportunity for you to get to hear from some really great speakers. And people talk about, well, how do you network? Well, hop on Twitter and network, or a lot of these conferences, like the UX conference I was at yesterday, has a chat room off to the side. You can talk with people there. You can kind of share your ideas. The other side of this is, I don't even know if my family knows that I went to a UX conference yesterday. I never left the house. So you don't even have to clear time off the calendar to hell, go down the street. You can just do it where you're at. And I think it's just fantastic. It's a lot like this. I think this is fantastic because you get to just like pop in. You get to send me work. I'll I'll record and look at it, and I'll send it back to you, and you get to move on with your day, and you can check in. And it just like this is the way the world's supposed to work. It's as if we poured a lot of oil in the gears, and now the gears just work better, even though the gears don't have as much work to do because we are in a recession. That's legit. And I've had people reach out and they're like, "Hey, Chris, I've applied for this many jobs, and I'm not sure what's going on." And let me first say, it ain't you, okay? It's likely it's the uncertainty in the market. All right, the uncertainty in the market it's what's hitting you, not you. But this is where it comes down to: who do you know? And the job tracking spreadsheet that I'm releasing later, Luigi's been working through it as of right now. I think Melanie's also using it. No, maybe not. There's somebody else that's using it. It's very oh no, Tegel's the one that's using it, which I'll see Tegel a little later. This job tracking spreadsheet is all built around the idea of who do you know, because we need to angle on that to find a way into these opportunities, to find a connection to these opportunities. And you may be surprised. You may see a job on the board and you're like, I really want to go after that. But until you do some research, you're not really sure how you're connected to it. Okay? And there are always ways. There are always ways to connect in with a job. There are very few jobs out there where you have zero connection. So, with that, I'm going to jump in. Stop it with the monologue, Chris. Let's jump in, and I believe we got Mel in here. So, Melanie, you've got a couple things here. We'll start with the type specimen. So, type specimen, you've got PT Seraph. It looks like you got Plex Mono. That's an interesting choice. Roboto and Airbnb serial app. That's interesting. I thought Airbnb was circular, but maybe this is like some knockoff weight. So the one thing I want to point out right away, mono's probably not a typographical choice you want to go with for like headlines, or really mono's great for like if you got something like code related, because monospacing is like every character has the same spacing. To show you what I mean, if I change this F to an I, the I has the same amount of spacing as an M. See how the M is not like all scrunched up? That's because structurally it has to live in the same space as the I because it is monospaced. The same thing. What's another really what W? And this is one of the things that I really hate about monospaced fonts until I'm trying to read code. And when I'm trying to read code, I really want that stuff to be spaced out equally so my eyes can follow along. Because I'm looking at it technically. So monospaced typography is really good for code, not great for much anything else. So as you probably discovered down here, this is pretty funky. Sometimes you can get into a larger size with it, but notice that here you have this is absent any of the really weird letters. Like the M there, like stands out like a sore thumb as like something that's not natural. Put it in there. So something to think about when you're looking at mono. PT Seraph. So PT Seraph is really nice, but it's limited. When you look at PT Seraph, it does. There's not a lot of variation to it. You could use it, but I would say it's like a headline font. To be honest with you, headlines, maybe a label. It's nice. It's actually a nice weight. When you're looking at it as like body text, but you can't. It's either it's this or the highway. Like there's no variation. There's nothing else to work with. Roboto's a very deep family to work with. You've got a nice italic. Um, you know, you can go. If you don't like the light, you can go with the medium. If you don't like you got the dim of bold. Paragraphs. Paragraphs. I don't necessarily know if the light is working so much here. I think maybe the regular would. The medium might be a little heavy. But this is so you can look at these things side by side and kind of make a distinction. Um, I love Airbnb typography. Serial looks a little narrow. It's like I can't figure out what's going on with that. Something's off there. Yeah, that's because it's Plex Sans. Okay, I was like, why? What happened between here and here? And it's because this is cancel. It's because this is still in Plex Sans. Yeah, the font that I most often associate with Airbnb is circular. So let's sorry, cancel. Let's take this because I know I've got it. Paste it in over here. So if I just grab this and I say circular, actually, and then let's just go with book. Weird. Oh, never mind. Took on the italic up there. Just trying to type in Airbnb. You can kind of see the similarities. But let's go to the actual Airbnb site because I'm just curious. I just want to know more about this serial thing. I also want to know more about where my website is. Where is the Firefox? Where are you? All right. Airbnb. Hey, it's not often we get to go to damn near dead websites and take a look at what could have been. It's really rough times for old Airbnb. Yep, circular, right there. So come on down. Come on down. Okay, so it's inheriting. So let's go on. Yep, font family, circular. And it's set at the body. It's like, hey, just inherit. So, and if circular is not available, it's just going to use Apple System, which is going to be, now it just looks like it's a system font. And if that's not available, it takes it all the way down to whatever the standard sans serif is on your. So let's look at that. So this is what it looks like if nothing else is available. We refresh. Hey, where do you go? What? Took a while. So circular is the way to go there, but it's nice to kind of have a look. So this is apparently probably some sort of like Airbnb like inspired thing, which is fine. The other thing to note is one of the reasons why circular is so great is the open counters. Like this has got like a really nice. It's a nice modern typeface. It's a little, in my opinion, it's a little cleaner than something like Roboto. Roboto is a bit more vertical. And I wouldn't use Plex for much of anything. Although I've used Plex on a project, I can't tell you that I haven't used Plex, okay? Because I have, and I like it. But I can just tell you it's got a window. And then PT Serif, I like it. It's just limited in what it can do, in terms of what you can do with it. I mean, it's just like I can use it for one thing. Let's go ahead and jump in. Look at part 2. Part 2, you've got some post-its here, so I'm kind of curious what's going on. Note, whoa. Okay, so you paired futuristic. Okay, so mono and rubato. Let's see. Let's see. I'm kind of interested in, like, okay, that's a good usage of rubato. Okay. Although I would still come in and I'm going to shift option, because I'm going to get a proper quote in there, proper apostrophe in there. What you had was basically a tick mark. Oh, and now I can't even. Now I can't. Oh, now I can't even force it to do what it was doing. But shift option, and that was coming. That was something that was in the copy. So. Sorry, I've got to write this note down. Something I've been wanting to fix for a minute. So I'm going to fix that. I really like this. This, like what you've done with it here, works. In all other usages, basically no. And again, what we've gotten away with here, I don't really like the spacing here, but that it's monospaced, so it is what it is. We don't have anything like an M in here, so you're not tripping across the oddities. Like you have one of the oddities right here with the W. So that you have one of the oddities because it's a capital letter, because it's starting. I don't think it stands out as much as it would if it was like somewhere inside. But anyway, long story short, I like the overall construction here. I like the space. I like the line usage of the line. This is great. So let's look at what you've got here. Okay, so PT serif. Okay. I like the way you're talking about the typography. You're able to express like why the X height is important. There is, I would agree with that. There's modest stroke contrast. We've seen what severe stroke contrast looks like. Like if we were to come in here and grab this, and I got to turn my tools back on. If we were to grab this and turn this instead to Playfair, that's extreme stroke contrast by comparison to where you're at. Where you're at is much more modest, much more even throughout. So I like what you've got here. Overall, I think that works well. Yeah, so I'd stick with this. The pairings are nice. This is a spot where I've done this in the past. I always you've got this on 32. I don't know if it needs to be 32. I think it could be like 28. Headlines, I almost always I am significantly underplay. I'm under. I'm not quite going with the 120%. Like right now this is like 125. So 24, 32. It's like 125. If we did 125%. Okay, so it's even north of that. So maybe 130%. Yeah, closer to that. 130, 140%. On headlines, I tend to go like 105%. So that would basically be like 24 on 26. And it's tightened up, okay? And I'm doing it mainly because I just don't like all the floaty space that we get as typography gets larger. As we get into headlines, I think the negative space injected, the headlines start to float apart. You don't see this on single lines. So you have to be careful and be mindful if you've got a situation where it's going to be 2 lines or 3 lines. Um, but I would look at that line height as a place where you might pull it together a bit. Um, but overall, I mean, the pairing is nice. And when you're looking at it from afar, it's not a big deal. But when you get up on it, then you can see it. But the pairing's very nice. Taco John. So, what I'm imagining here is I've got Taco John, and it's very easy to see what's going on here. I am curious about that's Ariel Serial app. So that's 14. That's 16. There is enough difference there. I also think the placement makes sense. Like, physical location is with the restaurant name. Hours and is next with pre-order and delivery. You're taking advantage of the space, which means that you've got this float in between. So if you get like a long restaurant name, it's probably going to soak up this space, but this pre-order always stays there in a fixed position. So I think that's smart. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to bounce away from that. And let's go over here and look. So this one is less ideal, and the main I've talked about this before. Taco John and Bobby's. That immediately, like, and there are longer restaurant names out there. Go into any Hispanic neighborhood, and you're going to have some like long taqueria to deal with as far as names go. I can think of a ton of Italian restaurants that do the same thing. So, what we're looking for here is we've got to have a construction that works for designs should that longer option appear. Boy, Figma does not like it when I do that. Okay. So let's. Figma's done that to me a couple mornings in a row. Okay, so here's Taco John and Bobby's. Here we've got to think, all right, well, how big should this really be? And you're probably looking at more like 20 in some sort of list situation. You also, like, the good news here is like this, like, what are the things that are fixed? What are the things that are fixed? Well, this is fixed, and this is fixed, and that's about it. Everything else is pretty variable. If we got rid of that for a second and said, okay, I'm pretty sure these are all restaurants, but maybe not. But what we really need here is we need the ability to say, okay, if this is long, do I want it to go all the way across clear? So, if it was Uncle Julio's Hacienda. That's actually a place. So Uncle Julio's Hacienda, that's pretty long. That's not too long, though. I mean, if we go Olive Garden, which is a terrible, I don't know, is it a seafood place? No, it's an Italian place. I don't know. I've never been. Anyway, let's go back to Taco John and Bobby's. I would rather keep this clean across and then pile in everything below. And then what happened, what are my variables here? Well, this could be, sorry, can't change that because it's the thing. I could have a long address, but the type size is such that I could go a long way without having to do the ... Same thing for this. It could be open or closed, and then it's going to tell me whenever the next delivery is available or delivery unavailable. and this is going to be go from pre-order to order. So you got to think about what are the variables that are involved when it comes to this data. What's going to update and change, and that's going to tell me how I can organize this. But Taco John and Bobby's, I really think it's got to be like 20, maybe even 18. And a lot of that for me is coming from knowledge of other apps that have list views. The other thing I'm want to do is I want to come through and I'm looking at spacing. I want that spacing to be even around if possible. I don't mind so much if there's a little space inside, but I want the cell. I'm looking at the the micro level of the cell. Macro would be the whole thing. Micro being just this cell. And then when we look at this side by side, what have we done? Well, we've removed restaurant. We've made it to where this can go across clean, and then we've organized this information so that it basically makes its own little unit down below. And that's it. And then when this changes and we come down here and we've got Wendy's for whatever reason, and I'm actually just thinking of things that are actually on Gyre Springs. Pizza Inn. Did you know I made pizzas? At a Pizza Inn? For Pizza Out, it's Pizza Inn? Yeah, I did it all. I can make a pizza. Anyway, but this is now flexible enough to where it really doesn't matter what I throw in here, it's going to work. So just think about that when you're working with information. Just know that if you go too big, especially in a dedicated small space, you're going to have problems. All right. You've got one more here, and I know you said you hadn't done part 1 yet, or was it part 3? Oh, I think it's part 3 that you haven't finished yet. So let's look at this. I love this. You've kind of done tooltips for proximity, symmetry, and similarity, and that it's like it's balanced, but it's also the similarity between the forms. This is proximity. This information is all valuable because it's together. I'm gonna hide my tools here. Yeah, what's interesting is this one is a bit more. You must be in here like working. Yeah. Oh, I think you're working on this. Okay. So this is still underway. But the way that you identified where these laws were functioning, I think is really good. Let's go ahead and move over to part 2 because you're still working on part 1. So here we have constraints. We're looking at so this is really where I begin to get concerned about and this one's not shared, so I think that says 10. I'm a little concerned about. Yeah, I'm gonna ask for. Well, actually, I can view. Can I edit? No, I cannot edit. Okay, so I don't have the ability to move these things around. This is really where I become concerned about the size of the typography. This is 12. That's 12. It's 12. It's 12. 12 is about as small as I think you can go. 10 is just way too small. This is in digital. You can go down to 10 in print. 12 is like the threshold in digital. Also, we're doing a lot of the very light gray. I'm worried about legibility because it's not a bad move. I mean, I get it. I think that it's interesting. I like the fact that you've left room here for a really long album name, so that's smart. I see some improvement there in the usage. I do think that like some of this information, could be moved down to align, particularly in this model, because um, you know the number of songs and the number of stars and the number of comments and then the length of it, that all of that information can ride side by side. You're not going to have like 4 million songs or 72 hour, 1 day 7 hours. 4 point, stars go up to 5, and the number of comments. I mean, all of that could grow significantly into the thousands, and you wouldn't have information running together. Um, by Rush 1981, I think that you can pretty much throw any band name in there. It's gonna be okay because you've got like all the space to work with. Years are 4 digits. You're not gonna run into anything that's gonna give you an issue there. So this is really good. Up here, I'm a little more concerned with the. I'm still concerned with the light gray. I think that some of it is the lightweight typography with, and I know it says normal, but it's still like 12. But I think I really do think that you have to look out um, for the. Are we getting too nuanced? Are we getting so subtle that people can't necessarily see what the difference is, because it's so light. Sorry, I have a really got a bug bite on my finger and it really hurts. Um, so let's go over here. Oh, hey, there's Melanie. See her moving around. Yeah, the good news here though, as you're moving around in here is, I think you could replicate any of these, and um, one of the things that one of the things I've mentioned up here is like what would happen if this Fantasy Studio had Exit Stage Left remastered live in it. I'm guessing that it would expand up because you don't, because of the structure here, you can't really expand it down, which means that I would probably, because I'm focused on spacing, and I want these things to be as consistent as possible, I would probably start all the information up here above where it's at now, and just I would lock it in. And if it was right now, there would be a gap, and maybe biometric would be here instead of down here. But there would be a gap, and that would be okay. Or maybe all of it rides up, and there's a gap between that and the comments. And then for a longer title, it stretches down. Whatever it is, what I wouldn't advise doing is having this start here, and then for a 2-line item, have it bump up. I would just have it start in a similar position each time. So let's go over here, and I want to make sure that did I get all of part 2? Yeah, I got all of part 2. Part 3. Part 3. Part 3 is interesting because it's black and white on a page. I think you've done like the one thing I do like is I like the fact that you've kind of gone through and you've followed what's going on here, with the typography, so that your labels are virtually the same. Your headline style, the body copy. What's odd for me is that the headline style dropped, like all the way through. Like it starts off big here, obviously, gets a little smaller. Now it's really small, but it goes back up. So I think, and because it holds that, I think what I'd be looking for here is I'd be looking for this to maintain this size and construction. And then my question is, this is black. Is there a particular reason that it's black? I don't see black anywhere else on the page. And this is where a conversation needs to happen. Just because this area is like blocked off, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be black. It could be green, or maybe it's blue, or maybe it is black. I mean, you've got a black like label up here. Um, so you got a black label up here. So maybe it is possible, but I don't necessarily think the design matches typographically. At least structure. The size is just it's smaller. It's smaller. It's not colorful. Um, so I think this is a conversation that it's like where you ping back and you go, hey, is there because I've gotten questions on this file before, a lot of questions because you're given a lot of content, and a lot of the questions are, can I expand the space? Can I change the background color? Can I and can I write my own copy? And the answer to all that is sure. Sure. I mean, I'm providing content for you to go in here. You figure out what you want to do with it. How do we make it fit? Maybe this lime green needs to be utilized that keeps popping up. Maybe I'm going to pick up this purple that's kind of hinting at the bottom. Okay? So there's some things to do here. But know that just because somebody at the new gig says, "Oh, hey, can you do this thing?" and here's kind of where it's going. They may not have put a lot of thought into the space that they're giving you. They're just kind of identifying where, okay? Like between these items. So you can grow it, you can shrink it, you can do whatever you want to. You can do whatever you want to. Is this really what you would do if you could do what you wanted to within the boundaries of what this is? Okay? We need to add a section. So I think if I remember your notes correctly, that was still in progress. So I want to kick that back. I also want to think about on this type specimen, like what are we doing here on this last area? I really do like what you're doing here. I may even like steal it, to be honest with you, because I sometimes I think people struggle to like identify. So yeah, let's do that. And I'm gonna wrap it up there. I'm gonna wrap it up there, folks, because Rebecca's stuff that's coming through is it's protected. It's freelance work, so I'm going to just give her some textual feedback. And yeah, it's a light morning today. I know I got Kara coming up. Tedral is right around the bend as well. So without further ado, I'm Chris Courtney. This has been the Feedback Loop, and I will chat with all of you again tomorrow. Take care.